Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hello to my examiners, supervisors and lecturers. My name is Muhammad bin Osman, and now I would like to present my final year project, which is work from home server using cloud computing via virtual private server. Introduction. The purpose of this project is to develop a cloud computing network for work from home users using virtualization and to evaluate the network performance between the host and the client. The target user for this project is a group of employees that does not have the right computer to do their tasks when working from home during the COVID-19 pandemic. This cloud computing allows them to access high-performance computer from the comfort of their home by just using the internet. During March 2020, Malaysia have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic also affects all the countries around the world, which cause the economic sectors around the world to be limited or shut down totally. Most offices will be closed, but in order to prevent the company from losing profit, they resort their employees to work from home. Even though there are some advantages when working from home that can benefit, there are also some disadvantages when working from home. One of the disadvantages of working from home is the unavailability of office equipment. Without proper equipment, employees cannot do their work, especially the ones that rely on office computers with high specifications. So, the problems of this in this project is employees cannot do their work from home because of no proper computer to do their tasks. Next, the concerns of virtual machine performing poorly when it's needed. So, based on the two problem statement previously, the objective of the project is to develop a cloud computing network for work from home users using virtualization and to evaluate the network performance between the host and the client. The target user for this project is a group of employees that does not have the right computer to do their time when working from home during the COVID-19 pandemic. This cloud computing allows them to access high-performance computer from the comfort of their home by just using the internet. Then, the virtual private server allows them to share files among them without concerning about security of data transfer on the internet. The users can access the cloud computing through their web browser or built-in remote desktop application. So basically, any modern devices that have connection to the internet and have a web browser can access the cloud. The significance of this project is workers can work from home using cloud and we will create a responsive remote desktop connection. One of the related works for this project is by Dr. Ashish Rastogi from the Department of Computer Science of GGU. The main discussion in the project is the various problems that have been identified when implementing the phase of e-governance in developing countries. The main problems that need to be tackled are infrastructure development, accessibility, security, trust, and privacy. In the article also mentioned the cloud computing that will be used to complete their project. The cloud computing is defined as a model for enabling ubiquitous, convenient, on-demand network access to shared pool of configurable computing resources that can be rapidly provisioned and released with minimal management effort or service provider interaction. The project methodology used for every development project requires early planning so that the project will be successful. In order for that to happen, we must follow the step of project methodology that is suitable for the project. So, in this project, the water model is being picked because of its clear structure that can be followed by the development team. The project will follow the simple step, which is requirement gathering and documentation, system design, implementation, testing, deployment, and maintenance. Each step have to be 100% completed before moving on to the next step. This will be resulting in more polished and complete project with little to no defects. This is the project framework. First is the gathering requirement, which is the task is to gather the required information on the project. to design a use case of the project, and to analyze the required hardware and software. Next is network design, which is to design a cloud network and to design the entity relationship diagram. Next in the implementation phase, where this is we start the project and develop the network design. Next is testing, where we test the cloud computing and improve any of the system flaws. Then followed by the deployment, where we deploy the cloud to the user and teach them how to use the new system. Last but not least is to provide update to the system to improve the system for further usage and sustain for a long time. This is the requirement analysis, where we identify the project problem and objective and significance, and provide a summarized literature and study about cloud computing architecture and work from home and virtualization, and we design a use case. These are the hardware and software requirements for the project. First is the hardware. We use two laptops with as a client and a server, and also there are two routers that we use to complete the network design. Next is the software that is being used. Cisco Packet Tracer is used to design the physical and logical network. Windows 10 is the operating system for both laptops. While Linux Ubuntu is the operating system that will be used on the virtual machines, and Draw.io to create use case diagram and flowcharts. So in network design, we design an activity diagram, and then design the physical and logical network, and then design a mockup interface. This is the use case diagram for this network. The user can share files, install software, log in and log out of the cloud. And then the network administrator can also log in and log out, but also can install updates and upgrade the server. The flowchart of this network is simple because there's only log in and log out for any user. This is the physical network of the cloud, where we use two routers connected to each other, and each router will be connected to the nodes, which is one is a host and the other is client. This is the logical network, where we can see the representation of two different networks to represent an internet connection. The first router use a different IP address than the second router, where the first router is the cloud server network, and the second router is the user's local area network. So for project development, there are 5 steps that have been taken to create the project. The first one is to set up network topology. Next one is to create and allocate hardware resources to virtual machines. Third, install operating system on virtual machines. Next is the crucial part, where which is enable remote desktop for all virtual machines. And last but not least is to set up SSH server for remote control of virtual machines for the administrator. This is the network topology that have been set up using the network design. The both router are connected using an Ethernet cable, and the node 1, which is the server, connected to router 1, while node 2, which is the client, connected to router 2. And based on the screen on both laptops shows that the client has already connected to the virtual machine on the server. This is the virtual machine settings, where all the configuration of the hardware allocation of virtual machines. After configuring the hardware allocation, the process is to install Ubuntu on the virtual machine, and this is the desktop interface. Next is to set up a SSH server, and this is the interface of SSH server, which can be used to connect remotely using the IP address of the server, which then can be used to access a batch file which can control and manage the virtual machine from fraud. This is the interface of the batch file, which called menu. The menu is very simple, where the user just have to enter the number from 1 to 6 for which program they want to start. The first, second, and third number is to start virtual machine 1, virtual machine 2, and virtual machine 3. For command number 4, is to start all the VMs at once. While number 5 is to end all of the virtual machines. If everything is done, the user only needs to type number 6 in order to exit the program. Now we will move on to the demonstration phase. For this demonstration, I would like to first to show how to connect to the SSH server using PuTTY. To do that, we enter the IP address of the server and the port number 22. Then we use the login credentials for the server and enter the password. And now we have access to the command prompt of the server. And now we want to launch the patch file for the program to run the virtual machine. Copy the location of the file in the server, paste it, and then the program is running. First, to demonstrate, we'll start all the server. As you can see, the server, all the virtual machine have been started. For now, I will stop all virtual machine by entering number 5. After that has been stopped, I will enter number 2 to start virtual machine number 2. As we can see on the server side, the virtual machine number 2 have been started, and now we are ready to connect from the client side to the virtual machine. To connect to the virtual machine on the client side, we use the remote desktop connection app. We enter the IP address and the port number of the virtual machine, and then enter password of the virtual machine, and we are in the desktop of Ubuntu. So basically, the user can use the desktop like normally without any problems. And that's all for my demonstration. And now testing and results. There are two types of testing that have been done for this project, which is network bandwidth test and network latency test. For the first run, the network bandwidth test, the client have been put further from the router in order to represent a real world scenario where most an average user setup which will sit further from the router. But even though from that scenario, we will see that the performance is very acceptable, where we get an average of about 34.5 megabit per second, which is more than the required bandwidth for uh, cloud computing. This is the second run where the user will sit near to the router, as we can see, and expected. The result has increased significantly, which increased to an average 52.4 megabit per second. And the last test is the network latency test. The test has been run for two times. The first run is successful as the second, but the second run is not much, but increase in performance, where the lower the value of the latency, the better it will perform. For future work recommendation, this project still have a few kinks that can be straightened out. For example, the audio on the remote stop was a little bit sluggish, which can affect the user experience, especially when consuming media content. But the system still provides an alternative way for a company to let their employees to work from home when lockdown is authorized. This remote desktop allows basic functionality as work desktop, which can be accessed from far. To summarize, this project can help a lot of people in this difficult time so that the entire world economy does not shut down. We identified a few project limitations in this project. The first one is to use Windows instead of Ubuntu virtual machine. Windows is a paid operating system, and which is most commonly used around the world. So most people should prefer Windows instead of Ubuntu for their virtual machines. Next is use server grade hardware. In this project, we only use a consumer grade hardware, which is a mobile processor and graphic card, which can be used to create a virtual server. But server grade hardware can do much more and deliver more performance than a consumer grade hardware would. And last but not least is to include throughput testing before deploying the project. Throughput testing is one of the most important testing for a network project, which basically shows how much processing power that can be done by the server. So, in a nutshell, cloud computing can help employees that does not have access to proper computer resources to do their tasks. The cloud computing also provides respectable performance with minimal software and hardware setup. Cloud computing is the future of the technology, and it can already be implemented at an entry-level hardware. The technology will become more developed until it can totally replace the current ways of computing. And that's all from my presentation. Thank you.